Stick around for this tutorial, guys, and I'm going to show you how I took this model from a viewer and I turned it into this. I totally cleaned it up, fixed the origins, fixed hotspots, a bunch of problems, overlapping geometry, artifacts, and shading errors. How to use the hotspot detector in Blender is going to be an absolute game changer for you guys too. So stick around, watch the full thing so you can get the corrections. And at the end, I'm going to have this little bonus setup where we're going to go in and we're going to figure out how to fix these, find the hotspots, and what kind of overlapping geometry problems can really arise from modeling something and then using a mirror modifier in a way that just does not help you. So stick around and we're going to explore, repair, and learn something great. Starting off with the FBX file that was sent to me, I just threw a mirror modifier on here to kind of accentuate it. We turn this off, we can see we've got a lot going on here. I'm just going to delete the mirror because we don't need it right now. Switch over to matte cap. I'm going to move over to the Studio Light metal car paint, and what that's going to do is it's going to give us this octagon light that is going to break on bad geometry. If we come over here on this window, we can see this is pretty good. There's a little distortion there going to the window, but generally speaking, his model doesn't look too bad. There's some spots that could be cleaned up. The more geometry could be added, but really the big problem's right here. So what we want to do is go back into Studio, and let's see here. What we could do is we'll just go ahead and turn on. Let's jump into Face Select, and I'm going to come over here to the overlays, and I want to turn on Face Orientation. I'm going to take a look at that. Make sure that we don't have anything in the red because we want the normals to face the right way. So you can check that first. And if you don't have that as a problem, we can come down to the normals and we can display the normals as lines on the faces. And straight away, you can see in this distorted area, we've got a normal just shooting out from nowhere. And normals shoot off of faces, they don't shoot off edges. So you've got something duplicated here that's during modeling process, we've got an extra face. And so we don't need that face in there. So I'm just going to Control Z back. And let's see if we can grab that face and hit X. And I want to dissolve that edge. And you can see that immediately cleared up a lot of the bad geometry. Or not the bad geometry, what that did is it cleared up some of that shading. So we come back out here, we're not looking terrible, but we still have a pretty big break here in the geometry. Looks a little better, but not much. So I'm going to come back Studio, go back into Edge Select, and you can see we've got this triangle right here that we don't need. I'm going to go to Vertex Select, and I want to turn on Auto Merge while I'm in Edit in Vertex Select. I'm just going to grab this vert, hit double tap G, and I can see that's not a double vert. There's just two edges merging at that point. That's no good. So I'll hit K for the knife tool. I'm going to hit X to constrain this and wait till it highlights that edge. If I go too far past, I'm doing something else. So just left click plate and hit enter. And then we go back into Edge, X, dissolve that edge. And it's starting to look a little bit better. We definitely need more geometry here. These are really big faces to try to make this look good. So you do this any way you want. I'm just going to come over. I'm going to constrain this on the X here and then here and hit enter. And now I've got another kind of control line to tighten this up. I'm going to do the exact same thing here. Left click to place a point. Highlight that edge, left click, enter. And now I've got a little something holding that together. Come back out. And that looks pretty good. We still have some stuff going on here, but let's met cap that and check the front face at least. So that's not terrible. We still have a little bit of a break here, but it looks a lot better. So we could just about work with that. And then up here on the top, You can see that we're kind of warped out a little bit too. There's a transition point from here to here, and it's not matching the edge at all. We have a rounded edge to kind of a hard edge or something, possibly. And let's hit Control 3 to get this side. Yeah, so that face isn't very even. I mean, it's more of a concave approach with a flat quad, right? And that's just not really going to work. So this needs more geometry in here. Basically, the whole thing needs to be subdivided, but just to correct this spot, because there's a lot of curvature going on, I think we can go across here, and I'll constrain that, and it'll make all the points for me. I don't really ever have to keep clicking on it to add points, but that's okay. So let me do that again. Right there. Don't really like that a whole lot. And we'll see how that looks. Not terrible. We still have a little bit right here. We're going to clean some of this up with weighted normals too. So we're not going to go getting hog wild here, reworking the geometry. So instead of adding that extra geo that I was thinking about adding, let's go ahead and just go to normals here in the modifier panel and just go ahead and add our weighted normals. And we'll see anything with sharp has gone crazy and doesn't look right. So let's just click keep sharp, because we have quite a few sharp edges in here. We don't want to lose that detail. Now you can change the weight right here and kind of rework that however you want. And now I think we're just about ready to add the modifier, but we do have an origin point that is way out here. So if you come in here and you go to generate in Blender 4.2 and you add a mirror, this will work because it kind of doesn't matter. But what we want to do, and we can see there's a distortion here still, and I'll show you how to fix that. So this is because our modifier is, our mirror is not happening before the normals. So we need to mirror this and then change the normals. So that looks a lot better. Go back to Studio. I think we're looking pretty good so far. But I do want to mirror this properly because I didn't notice if in his final file, I don't know if the guy, he follows me, so I don't know if he mirrored this or not, but hopefully he can watch this as well and go through it. So I want to add a mirror modifier to this. And with that origin point, we'll see if this works, but doubtful it's going to be too good. Okay, go ahead and mirror that, and that's fine. But when we go to the y-axis, we end up with our tires way down there. That's not very helpful. So we would, generally speaking, we could turn off the mirror. Excuse me, I don't want to do that. Grab this mirror. I could turn it off for now and then just grab this and go Object, Set Origin to Geometry. And then we get this thing. And that kind of happens. So now the geometry has changed and we got to fix that. So what are you going to do? Let's go into Origins right here. And let's turn off this mirror modifier because that's not going to help us. And if we go to top view, and I do like for these instances sometimes to go into X-ray, you can hit Alt-Z to toggle into that. And where is my origin? I'm going to see that in object only. We could press Control-Alt-Q and get all of these different views, which is nice. So that kind of works out. So over here with the origin, let's see, where does that end up? Right about here. So I'm going to select a face here, and in my previous testing I already have that there. So let's dissolve that vertice, and I was just going to grab these two verts, hit W and subdivide, and then I'll grab the one vert, Shift S, and I want cursor to selected back in object mode. And I'm going to get out of quad view because it's kind of confusing. So I will now set origin to the 3D cursor. And now with that, it doesn't matter where it's at. If you want it more central, you can play with it. But I go ahead and turn on the mirror modifier, and voila, that's working nice. And you can turn on clipping, and then you see like how that goes. You can leave the threshold on the way it is for the minimum merge distance. And now grabbing this, I can turn this one back on, and now we've got all of our wheels and everything pretty much where we want them. Sometimes, and it looks like these wheels may be too far back in the wheel well. I'm not as familiar with the Volkswagen Beetle, but if you don't like that, you can take this with origins on and hit G and Y, and you can kind of move that. See, why is that not moving? That should be moving it forward a touch. Okay, so let's do this. Let's move this one forward. There we go. All right, so G and Y, and then you can move that around and kind of line that up wherever you would. And now it's good. Don't forget to turn off origins because you don't want that turned on while you're trying to work on your model, because that is really gonna set you back. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And then just a hint for anybody, I would go into the preferences and system, and I would go to the undo steps, and I'd put them to like 100 instead of 30, so you can kind of go back if you mess something forward. If you mess something up, you can hit Control Z and see how that tire just moved, or you can hit Control Shift Z and go forward in an undo step, which is so important. So this looks pretty good now. We've corrected the errors from the original, and that looks pretty good. And don't forget, if that mirror modifier is last in the stack, that's not going to work. So bring that up. Then you can kind of play around with your shading however you wish. I've not tested to see how an auto smooth would look on this, but if we turn on cavity, okay, cavity's already on, so that's fine. Just kind of accentuates the corners and everything. And we turn off cavity. If I can find it again. We turn off cavity, we'll see we're looking pretty good. And now we can grab the matte cap, and we'll look, and we don't have that cutting anymore. We're just, blasting on the corners a little bit. So that's it. That looks pretty good. I think that is good enough for clockwork right there. So if you were to work on your model just a little bit more, you'll have a good model you can texture. All right, how did I get that cool thing on the screen? Well, I just went up here to mesh edit mode and came down to mesh analytics or analysis, and I switched this to distortion. And if you're going to go look at what this does on Blender's main site, you'll be able to see that distorted geometry can cause problems since the triangulation of a distorted end-gon is undefined. Now, this mode is meant for printing in 3D, or rather 3D printers, but I find it very useful. So we're gonna go over this a little bit, and some hotspots. I actually created all of these red hotspots myself by simply not continuing my loop cuts, or I did something that a 3D printer couldn't grab, and this could cause problems later. So I would come in here and grab that one vert right there. I'll hit X, and I want to dissolve that vertice, and voila, there goes that. Then I can hit K on the knife tool here, and then just go ahead and pass this down. And I didn't quite go far enough. We can just go all the way down. And there we go. That kind of gets rid of a lot of the hotspots there. And I think we'll just do this, and then I'll make it go like that. Hit enter. And that gets rid of a lot of that. And this will tell you where you've kind of messed up, if you will, to a large degree. Things that are in the blue are a low value and are not really important. Things that are in the bright red, just like a weight map those are like a full 1, and those are problems. So you'd want to find out what's going on. And I do see a little pinch right here, like there's something going on. Let's turn this off for a second because it's in the way a little. Yeah, see this? We've got a vertice doing something funny, and I saw that because I had the mesh analytics on, and I'm like, why do I have a blue attached to a yellow? It shouldn't be that way. So we won't go through the whole model because this tutorial is already pretty long, but grabbing something like this with your auto merge on, if you could move it, and it doesn't look like I can move that anywhere. So I want to go ahead and find that. Oh, look at that. It goes right through. It goes right through. So let's go into edge select X, and let's see if we can dissolve that edge out. Yeah, look at that. Let's see. Did that throw off anything? I don't think that threw anything off. It looks good. And earlier I did see a nasty little pinch in here, but I'm thinking that was part of it. Very good, very good. That looks wonderful. Okay. So I did throw a displace on this because I was playing around with it. I should take that off. I'm throwing everybody off, and I do have a sub D on here. You can do some sub D work as well with something like this, but that's another whole tutorial by itself. So yeah, there you go. Just a little bonus at the end, just to kind of give you guys an option to inspect your mesh, remove all those pinch spots, and when you're doing a mirror modifier, I mean, that's the whole reason you're doing it, is so you only have to model one side. Okay, guys, so that's a big deal. It's a game changer, especially if you're just moving over from another software. You're gonna want to know about your mirror modifier. You're gonna want to know about objects, origin points, how to turn on origin, how to do cavity face orientation. This is huge. Turning on cavity, being able to see all of those accentuated edges, and to be able to see those faces highlighted. And of course, you can change. If you go to both here, you could change the valley and the ridge. These are not shading errors, okay? These are just the things that you get from cavity. It would be similar to when you're over in the sculpting tab and you have some cavity work you can do. Yeah, so when you're just drawing a mask in a cavity or cavity inverted and things like that, it's sort of similar. So that will help you out. You can turn cavity off when you are done, and don't forget this final little trick. You go in, and let's go ahead and throw in a camera. And I'm going to switch over to cycles, turn off all of this stuff, and go with an HDRI. And I think I'm liking this one right here. I'm going to throw a basic texture on this real quick. And just kind of bring that down. Let's call it a full metallic. And let's bring up the roughness a touch, maybe a little less on the metallic. And if you go into cycles, you'll see shading errors all the same. So you want to go into cycles, give it a look. And if you don't see like anything crazy, it's not going to render out with crazy stuff. Like there's some dark spots in there. You may want to play around with the weight and see how that's going to end up looking. And jumping back over in to solid view, I'm going to grab, because I see some funky stuff. There's a real dead zone on all of these fender panels. So what I would do is I would grab one of these and hit G and see what's going on. See if I can drag any face overlap and see what's happening. I'll just grab a face and hit H to hide it and kind of see what's going on underneath this panel. Was that a double face there? Yeah, that looks like there's a ton of overlap. Look at that right there. So yeah, there's a ton of extra faces under here. So there's some modeling issues. I'm not going to correct all of that. I'm going to leave it to the guy that made the model. But I want to teach you guys how to find this stuff so you're not sitting high and dry when you get into render mode and you see stuff like this and you're like, yikes, how do I fix this? Because you'll get into your final render and you may not even see it until you're about at your deadline, you think you're good, and then you've got all those dark spots, which are going to be an absolute nightmare for you. So, and I'll just have a little fun with this. Let's hit X and let's try to dissolve. You know, it's funny, I've never in my life have I clicked dissolve faces. I'm always dissolving edges and or vertices. And so we got, let me dissolve that face. And now face isn't going away. If I hit X and delete that face, it's gonna collapse that area. No, it did not collapse that area. So let's delete this face. And let's grab the K tool and let's connect these back. Let's go back into cycles. Yikes, forgot to get out of that mode. Yeah, look at that. Look how nicely I cleaned up that one little spot right there. So overlaps will cause that, and those are all the gems I've got for you this evening. You guys know what to do. See you in the next one. And that wraps up the tutorial. Hope this was helpful for everybody. Let me know in the comments if you need any assistance, and I'll drop a link for the Discord in there. You know, I do take people's models with permission, and I will do a tutorial. If not, I'll just help you individually in my Discord, because sometimes it's a little tedious trying to go back and find a comment, you know, because I've got several hundred videos. So finding comments, which I get in daily, is going to be tough. So jump in that Discord link. Catch you guys in the next one.